We're vectors, intersectors, pathways and superhighways for pests and disease. So please stop and connect with country.
Soil's made up of organic stuff.
Hey everybody, welcome. It's very exciting to be back here again at another year at the conference. It's been lovely. I look around now and I see a room full of friends, as well as people that are colleagues, and as well as a whole lot of strangers that I haven't met before, and I'm really looking forward to meeting with everybody during the conference and having a great conversation together about Waste 2019 and the challenges and all of the exciting things that await us. I too want to acknowledge the Indigenous owners of the country. We've spent a lot of time this year as a team with Dirt Girl and Costa and everybody across the top of Australia. And the thing that I have learned to celebrate is that we are part of a culture that dances its history and sings its geography and paints its stories. And this morning when I woke up while Costa was running down to the surf to have a swim, I thought about the fact that this is country where children have played and people have fished and they've gathered and told stories, shared stories of their lore, of their traditions, of their history, of their families for 65,000 years. And that the story is what has led and stuck and held the community together. When we talk about media, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about story. And so I thought what today I would do is I am going to have a little talk about media, but I really want to have a real focus on the story. And the story starts, and we heard it with the kids and we heard it with Costa, the story that starts at the beginning, you need to know why you're telling the story. And I was thinking about the fact that I've walked in nature, I've swum in the oceans. When I've been brokenhearted, I've sat underneath a tree and let nature console me. I've looked under leaves and discovered things that I could never think that were possible. We've all seen things that have excited and delighted us. We've breathed in fresh air. We've spent time in nature. And that's what we're talking about. When we're talking about waste, when we're talking about why do we have to do this, it's about protection. And when I think about this crazy fictional reality that I have created out of the heart of me and my partner Huey, when I see that you guys respond exactly how I always hoped to a man dressed as a gnome and a girl with 3 red ponytails, that they are as real as any other person, and yet they came from my heart and my imagination. They have a life of their own. I have no control over them whatsoever. When I see a photo of Costa driving a Jetstar plane dressed as a gnome, when I see Costa the garden gnome coming out of the toilets, going in as Costa Georgiadis and coming out as the gnome, and people absolutely embracing and loving him as the real soul that he is, I understand that story is powerful. I am a storyteller. I came from a storytelling family. My dad was an incredibly progressive educationalist. I got to hang with him, and he taught me lots of stuff about story. He told me that stories are engaging, and they're fun, and they're entertaining. And I thought about it last night when I put everyone to bed at the house, ready for a big day today, and I popped on my Foxtel and watched the Game of Thrones episode. Far too late in the night for me to be watching it, because for 7 years I've been connected to that story. And I know that all around Australia and all around the world, many people watched the same story last night because they know how to tell a story, because they've been able to spread a world of fantasy that have connected us all. So what about waste? Are there stories that we can tell about waste that have the same kind of engagement, the same kind of connection? And one of the things that I've really realised over all of this time, spending time, we created a project, we created a plan, but we created a story. And it was really, really important to us that although that story is shared with 128 countries around the world and loads of kids, thousands, millions of people connect with us with social media every week, still, 10 years on, 10 years since the Dirt Girl animation been on television, new children, new families coming to the table, new people joining in the story, more and more people. And I thought about those kids who first started with us, who were 4, 5 and 6, and they reminded me that they were 4, 5 and 6, now that they're 14, 15 and 16, and they're marching in school strikes. And they write to us and they say, "You started this for me. You taught me how to be a warrior, Dirt Girl. You showed me that the planet is worth standing up for." That sort of stuff's powerful. And I never thought that that would ever happen at the beginning of this. I thought we were telling a story, but I found out that we were sort of changing the world. And that's how powerful media is, and that's how powerful stories are. In that 10 years, of course, media's changed significantly. And so while we talked about media before, when we started this story, we went all around the world and we pitched to television stations, and it was just at the start of this kind of social media world. We were always fascinated with the multiple level of telling stories because my dad had told me that. And we saw it when we were kids. When I was a kid, there were comics and there were all kinds of things that told the same story. You could go to the movies and see a picture. You could listen to a song on the radio. Telling stories on different platforms, hearing it out of a family's voice, reading it in a book. It's always been. We've always had many ways to hear stories. But now, as one of my great team members pointed out to me, instead of broadcasting, we're narrowcasting. People have a tube of information that comes straight to their home, straight to that person. And so now we are the media. Every council that sits here, you are the media. Every single company, every business, every part of the industry, every part of government, you are the media. You have direct route to people, you have set up and established things, and I spent a little bit of time before I came and had a yak looking at those things, having a really good look and seeing how are we going as a collective media of everybody in this room. And in some ways we are kicking real goals. In some ways we're making extraordinary content, but probably where this is a really interesting conversation, and can't wait to connect with everybody this afternoon when we hear some case stories. But I see spectacular things that have had a load of money spent on them that have got 17 or 18 views, that have got maybe 4,000 views over a period of 2 years. And so that reach, how do we keep connecting with our communities? We're making great content. How do we get them to choose us? And I think it's the thing about if we are passive and we expect people to find us, we're probably being a little foolish. And so I think in a lot of ways I look at how the US make content, how the US use their media. They spend twice as much on their marketing budget as their production budget. I'm not suggesting we do that. That's insane. But when we have funding come to us, and the funding lets us make content, but it has no marketing money. When there's, as a group of people or as a group of an organisation, we sit down and we plan what the content is, but we don't plan how we're going to get it out to people. That's a little foolish. And so I feel like now, this is the year that we can say, how do we extend our reach? How do we do it? And there's lots of ways that we do it, not just, the thing is too, what I said before, it has to be a good story. It has to be something that people want. It has to be something that is a story worth hearing. If we just give people do, or fear, or, we know that stuff doesn't work. All of you know it doesn't work. But we're all kind of looking for how do we do this? How do we get to our communities? I love, everybody knows here, I love a good story. I love emotion. I love great characters. I love all of that stuff. But I love a good love story, and I want to share my first waste love story with you, and it's with the Clarence Valley Council. I love them because they get this stuff. Because they worked out that when you talk to community and you want to change how a community is, you lead with the story of care. They believed us when we rocked up and said, what we'd like to do is we'd like a slogan that says, handle with care. It's a play on words, a very funny play on words, because handle with care used to be sort of like it was hot or it was dangerous and you had to handle something with care. And we turned that idea on its head. And what we were able to do is we said, you look after your rubbish with care at home, you hand it to the council, who will look after it with great care, and together we will care for the planet. It's a pretty simple story, and it's a love story. And they didn't just think that's the end of that story. They allowed us to tell that story all over the place. In the brochures that went home, in posters, in newspapers, in radio ads, in podcasts, in stickers and magnets that went on the fridge, on Cate stickers, on video clips, all kinds of things. When with the launch of the campaign of FOGO in the Clarence Valley was an onslaught of love on the community. We painted the trucks white, we put a garden on the trucks and the characters, and we made health, that idea of health, be part of the story, that this was all about care, this was about love, and that together we could change the way things were happening. You know, years on, they didn't just stop at having one campaign. We've had a 6-year love story. We come in when there's a little bit of a need for a touch point on organics. We came in with organics handled with care. We had that story. Then, not content with having great communications, they then went and got funding and built an education centre. An interactive, immersive education centre where people from the community and schools could come and immerse themselves in the love story. And that story starts with falling in love with the Clarence Valley, with the beauty. You walk into that space and all you see is the heart of the valley. It's trees, it's rivers, it's water. The Indigenous, you walk through a water tank to get into it, and the Indigenous whispering words of water and the local song for water in language, as you walk in, that's what gets you. You change your heart, you shift your heart. Then you work out and understand how it all works. And then you know what to do. And that kind of world of being able to connect profoundly and deeply to nature, understand what it is that needs to be done, and then to know how to do it. It's pretty simple. It's a good story. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. 6 years on, less than 1% contamination in organic waste, 4% in recycling. Huge success. But you also see a community that is standing proud when it comes to waste. Yep, there's still more to do. Totally, everyone's got more to do. The hunt now is for getting people to be primo recyclers and grab some stuff out of that red bin that's still falling in there, bringing it back in. But this is a community that were terrible at waste, and they're a community that are leaders now. Because they've got great people who are leading them, but the community, it's their story. What Costa was saying, they're bought in. From the beginning, they were led, and then also bought in. So that's my very lovely love story. There's one problem, however, that started evolving in the last couple of years. It's not a Clarence problem, it's a national problem. The story is broken, of care is broken, because at the moment we've asked people to handle their rubbish with care, hand it over to councils who will handle it with care. And that's where the story got broken. Because we know at the moment that we've got some challenges with that. And so when we talk about bringing people along, I kind of go, rather than being overwhelmed and disappointed, rather than losing all of these fantastic recyclers that we've all created across Australia, we need to be really transparent with them. We need to really bring them along. This is the moment where we double down in honesty. This is the moment where we say, there is big changes coming. If we want a circular economy, but we do not let people know what a circular economy really is, if we keep it in a word rather in action, if we don't excite everybody about what a circular economy is, it'll be slow to take off. It'll be slow to get people to make sure that those recyclables are resources, that they're clean and ready to go. And so I feel like we just have to really be very careful at this point, that we don't lose those people who we've brought along, but that we not only don't lose them, but we inspire them to do something else. Even if we're not quite ready yet, we have to keep talking now. Communication. Education isn't about sitting a few kids down in a classroom and colouring in. Education isn't about sticking a thing on your fridge. Education is about changing hearts. Shoulder to shoulder, working together as a community. Councils have had this problem sometimes with us and them. This is the moment where we can change that round. Waste can lead to an us. No us and them, no even us and us, just us. As the infrastructure changes, as people are having to change how they handle their waste, we need to tell them straight away. We need to be able to do that. We've all talked, the kids even talked about it. We know there's a huge conversation about reduce. We know that the people who are the waste makers need to make less waste. We know that the people who are the waste takers need to take waste and handle it responsibly. And we know the rest of us who are the waste makers and shakers, movers and shakers, need to be moving and shaking as much as we're possible at the moment. My dream, we're in a very funny position. We don't even know who's going to be in a federal government on Monday. So I'm going to talk about my optimistic dream. My optimistic dream is for a national approach to waste education. I know it's going to be tricky to have a national approach to waste in its whole, but just waste education, let's just think about that. And that if we had a gateway that a federal government supported, and they put all that marketing money that Hollywood puts into the film, into that space, and they built that space for us, and that it was levelled so that it was a national space that had that big story, that big conversation, the big heart story right across it, the why we need to be here. This is the planet part. We're standing at a time where more than ever, I don't know about you, this is the first time in my life that there has been this much love, this much desire from the population about the environment and climate change when it comes to an election. It's bubbled up to the top, and it keeps bubbling, and every day that voice is getting louder and louder. And waste is this voice. We're at the top of it. If we want quick fix for the planet, put the right thing in your bin, roll it out the front of your house and get it collected and used in a right way. It's the quick fix. We are at the front of solutions. We are in the absolute prime position to help people take what, Dirtgirl did a beach clean-up with Jack Johnson at the Blues Fest at Kingscliff the other day. And they did this fantastic interview, the two of them sitting at the beach, having a yak about this. And Jack Johnson said, this is overwhelming times. There is so much going on, it's overwhelming for people. But how you deal with overwhelming is you do something and then you feel good about it. And that's how you positively change. You do something. And so we are the people who can actually help the community do something. Getting our waste right is doing something to help feeling a little less overwhelmed with the story that's going on. So yeah, I want a gateway. I want to have the fact that we can be a bit more strategic. All of us are spending the money on the same messages, and then we're only reaching a few people. And so having a strategic plan where we decide Victoria, New South Wales, all of our states, and then all of us locally, we get together and we have a bit of a plan. So rather than spending the same little bit of money on the same story, we start being a bit more strategic about where we're telling what story. And that we understand that ambassadors are a good thing, and I'm not talking about my delicious ambassadors. I'm talking about your ambassadors. Putting a person's face on a truck is not good enough. That's not an ambassador, that's a person's face on the truck. An ambassador is a really tech-fired nan who knows how to work your local app. And she goes to bingo and she teaches all the other oldies about how to do the app. That's an ambassador. Having people who are standing up for waste and talking about it at meetings. And at Australia Day Awards or at your local council awards, they're the person who are there giving it out because they become part of the community, that their stories are important. So we've got allowing citizens to create and customise their own waste story. We allow us to do it everywhere else. We've got a Facebook, we've got a Snapchat, we've got YouTube, we've got all kinds of stuff happening. If this gateway let us kind of say, here's the national big story, here's what's happening in my state, and then here's what's happening locally. Here are my local champions, here are my national champions. Together we can change the world. And I know that this is a big, I did say it was my dream. I want to disrupt the story, but by putting in simple strategy. I want to build a modern future. Everyone talks about the tipping point. We've all thought we've been there before. I think we're there. This is it. If you listen to everybody, they say, this is our window of opportunity. This is the time for us to dig deep and find a way through to fix this. You're all the leaders here. I'm loving it. I'm looking at your faces. You are the leaders of this industry. Not one sector alone can bring this together. But all of us working with purpose, fitting all of our pieces into the puzzle, we can complete the picture. And while data is important, it will not win the day. Hearts win the day. Getting everyone's hearts aligned and having a story that they engage in and believe in is how we will get through this. David Suzuki says one thing we can do for our planet is not waste. All of the waste strategies that are coming out from our states are saying reduce is the way that we lead this conversation. We've yet to even really think about strategies about reduce in a kind of national kind of approach. I must say we have been thinking about it quite a lot. It's such an important story. So there's lots of things happening, lots of change happening. We've got days to hang out together. We've got days to share information. I love the fact I was talking to Laverne from the Grampians and then having a yak to Suzanne from Grafton and being able to introduce those two women together who are both powerhouses of this conversation, who had never met each other. That's what this is about. We're lucky. We get to travel all around Australia and be on your country, hanging out with you, seeing what you're doing. It's a great opportunity. Make sure that you're sharing what you're doing. It's not time to hold on to. There's no kind of private ownership of any of this stuff anymore, surely. We've got to open up, share our best ideas with each other, which is what we're going to be doing straight after this. And I just want to finish. I've got about 10 seconds. We've done really well. We're not running too late. That's really good. 3 of us talking in under time. It's a miracle. For 10 years. This is just a little tiny story about business, because I'm in business as well as I'm in love, communications, changing the world. For 10 years, I've wanted to make a Dirt Girl doll. And for 10 years, I searched for something that I could be proud of, that we could say that we weren't putting waste into the community. You won't find any Dirt Girl merchandise in shops, because we decided we weren't going to make something that was going to end up in landfill. That we would be at a landfill and we would be there and there would be Dirt Girl toys in it. Would have ended our lives. That was just not why we did this. We didn't want to be somewhere where they have a picture of a bird opened up and inside there's a figurine from dirtgirlworld. That was just not what we wanted. That would have been the end of the world. So we hunted high and low and I found some dolls. They're going to cost $150 each to be a sustainable doll. And I just thought, I can't do that to families. I'd rather that they put a sock with 3 ponytails, anything. Finally, this year, on our 10th anniversary, we're making the first circular economy doll in Australia, and I'm very proud of this. The Dirt Girl Costa and Scrap Boy range that will look like a tea towel, that are made on organic Australian cotton with a waterless process, with 40% less ink, that the kids will make, and inside that doll they will stuff old socks, old bits of rubbish, the bit of the material that comes off the doll in the first instance. And I'm glad to say that they will be odd-looking, weird dolls that people will have loved making and kids will hug when they go to bed, but hopefully we'll take out to the garden and plant some seeds with. It's our choice, just like it's all of our choices in the room. The business decisions we make, please make sure, from a business point of view, that you're reflecting the best environmental policies in everything you do. If we're dealing in waste, make sure you're not making waste. Have a fantastic time. Check us out. If you want to come and have a yak about education, of course, we're down there in booth 31. Dirt Girl and Costa are here. You don't have to do business with us to come and have a photo taken with them. We're here for joy. We're sparking joy. We're sparking joy here at the conference. Come and have a yak. Come and take a photo. Spend some time getting in touch with the reason why we're here. Coffs Harbour is beautiful. Before you come to the conference, spend 5 minutes looking and being in nature. Go put your feet in some water. And don't forget that we're all here to work together to make a difference. Love you all. Talk to you soon.